At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hello and welcome. I'm Ryan Clark, the Oregon State Beavers beat writer for the Oregonian and Oregon Live, and you're listening to Beavers Beat. Oregon State versus California kicks off at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday night at Reser Stadium. A little bit of Pac-12 After Dark action to kick off the 2025 season. Of course, Cal no longer in the Pac-12, but a history between these two teams nonetheless. 31 consecutive meetings this will be between Cal and Oregon State. We've got plenty of preview content for that game up now on OregonLive.com, along with a feature on Oregon State tight end Riley Williams making a homecoming of sorts. The former Central Catholic star is back in the Beaver State after transferring to OSU from Miami and is going to be a big part of the Oregon State offense, so be sure you check out that story. This episode of the podcast will focus on answering some reader questions. We've got the first edition of our mailbag posted on our website, of course, but we've got 5 more questions I didn't get to in the mailbag that I'd love to get to right here on the podcast. This is the Mailbag Overflow. First up from an anonymous submitter, we have, other than Coach Bray, which coach is there the most pressure on to perform this season and why? I would say definitely Ryan Gunderson. This OSU offense was pretty dreadful last season, and struggled through the air and was pretty one-dimensional at times. With Malik Murphy added in, the expectation obviously is that this team is going to be much more productive offensively and more balanced. And if they aren't able to achieve that this season, despite the injury to Darius Clemens at wide receiver and despite potential issues along the offensive line, there might be more pressure on Ryan Gunderson. Whether he would be on the hot seat, I'm not sure. I think he's somebody that's a program staple and somebody that Coach Bray believes in, and things would have to get pretty bad for his job to potentially be on the line as a result of a lack of performance. Mike A. writes, it seems the Beavers were plagued with injury early last year and couldn't bounce back. Do you think this was an attitude amongst the players, and do you think everything has changed for the positive? I think that when your team is injured and when you experience the level of injury that Oregon State did last year, particularly on defense, it is difficult to bounce back. And when it comes to your attitude and your approach to games and your motivation, it's very difficult to find it when you're not finding those results. That loss to Cal last season comes up as an example. Obviously, they got beat 44-7, and that really sent their season into a tailspin. They lost 6 of the final 7 games down the stretch. Their defense was bad. It was young, and they struggled against teams that, you know, the program feels like they're above and feels like they're on the same level as. So, you know, this season staying healthy is obviously going to be a big deal. They already have Clemens hurt. Micaiah Tongue with his retirement due to medical reasons obviously hurts the inside linebacker core, and then dealing with TJ Crandall's foot injury in the cornerbacks room as well. None of those are great, but it's not even close to the scale of injury that Oregon State dealt with last year. This team's healthier. This team's ready to make some strides this year, especially on the defensive end. And I think the attitude has changed, particularly for the defense with Coach Bray calling the plays. There is an intensity. There is an attention to detail that fans watched those games down the stretch last year, and the Beavers simply did not have it. Joe writes, what is the likelihood of Malik staying with OSU past this initial season? If he has a breakout year, it seems likely the bigger teams will come hunting again, and we will continue to be a, quote, feeder program. Any chance the blue-collar attitude and family vibes went out over a payday? Malik addressed this when he arrived in the spring, back when Nick Daschel was covering the team. He wrote up a story on Malik that introduced him to Beaver fans. And one of the things Malik said was that he wants this to be his last stop. Whether that's he has a super successful season in 2025 and parlays that into an NFL career, or he stays at Oregon State for 2 years, that seems to be the most likely outcome at this point for Murphy. Now, obviously, things could change. College football is filled with people who make commitments and then go back on those commitments and change their mind again. The transfer portal is always there as an option for Murphy if this doesn't end up being a good fit for him, or if he sees a better opportunity to improve his NFL prospects elsewhere. But at the same time, he did make that statement, and as far as reputation and commitment goes and helping your own NFL prospects, it would be better for him to stick it out in a situation, I think, that is good for him as a prospect. He's got weapons around him. He has a program that he can sort of be the face of. And you know, given the strength of schedule for Oregon State this season, he's going to have a chance to put up some big numbers in some of those games. We'll see how things look next year for him. If he makes the jump to the NFL, or he decides to stick around for one more year in Corvallis potentially. But I would be surprised if Malik Murphy doesn't finish his career out with Oregon State. Gary from Aloha writes, last year, the defense front seven was small. I believe this is one of the primary reasons we gave up so many rushing yards. How much bigger is the front seven this year, and does it extend through the depth of the team? This OSU team may not be as big up front on either side of the ball as some of the teams in the SEC or the Big Ten or these power conferences, including, frankly, the team up the road in Oregon. But they certainly have put on some weight in the right areas at defensive tackle and at defensive end. There's guys that look bigger, are bigger, say that they've put on weight in the offseason by way of muscle mass. And there's guys that have dropped weight too. Tavita Pomey talked during camp about the fact that he lost 20-something pounds in the offseason. He cut out McDonald's from his diet, which is a hilarious thing to admit, and something that, you know, definitely is a good move on his part. He feels like he's more mobile as a result of that, but this front seven has more depth this year. It's quicker. It seems faster to the ball than last year, according to folks who've covered the team over the years. So they may not be the biggest, certainly, in the country, but what they might lack in size, I do think they make up for in speed and ability to rush the passer. We saw it in camp. It looks like a team that's going to make major strides in that department. We mentioned it before, only 7 sacks all of last season. That is not what you want as a defensive front. So I think that they're going to be an improved group regardless of a potential lack of size. And another anonymous submitter says, how do I view the program from any other lens than utter despair and nihilism? The announcement of Dallas Baptist entering the, quote, Pac-12 doesn't exactly move the needle. Should I just accept a life of being a mid-major? Should I give up entirely? No, you shouldn't give up entirely. Certainly not. There are reasons for hope in both this life and in sports fandom. But should you accept the life of being a mid-major? Also, no. I don't think that, despite the steps back that the Pac-12 is obviously taking by way of quality and by way of prominence on the national stage, they're not a mid-major. Look, you're still in your own sort of, at this point, group of 5 type category, where as the conference continues to beef up, as it continues to add teams like a Boise State, even though obviously we're recording this podcast on Friday, last night was a rough one for Boise State down at USF. But adding a program like that, adding the other programs the Pac-12 is looking to add across all sports, I think that the overall outlook is solid to maybe shaky for the conference. certainly there's going to be more realignment in the future. And certainly there's going to be other teams that are probably going to be looking for homes that I think could strengthen the Pac-12. I don't think the Pac-12 is devolving into a pariah conference by any means. It certainly isn't what it once was, and it's definitely not a mid-major at this point. It's definitely easy for people and understandable for people to give in to those feelings of despair and nihilism that this person was talking about, because things have changed a lot in college sports over the last couple of years. And the Beavers in particular have been one of those schools that really got the short end of the stick with how things shook out. It adds to the disdain in the rivalry with Oregon, because Oregon obviously was one of the teams that left the Pac-12 for quote unquote greener pastures. And these feelings of resentment to those teams are certainly strong. I think that there is reason for optimism in that Oregon State, among the Pac-12 schools that are remaining in this new conference, is certainly one of the ones in the stronger positions, if not the strongest position, when it comes to football, and especially when it comes to baseball. And Dallas Baptist, I think, does move the needle for the Pac-12. That's a elite program that, gives the Pac-12 two real powers, two teams that are very likely to get bids to the NCAA tournament and have a chance to make a run. So, there's obviously more to come for the Pac-12, and things could very easily just fall apart again, because that's how college sports goes. But I tend to lean on the extremely cautiously optimistic side when it comes to Oregon State's future. For more news and analysis ahead of Oregon State versus California, visit OregonLive.com/Beavers. You can follow me on Twitter/X and on Blue Sky at Ryan T. Clark. And be sure to submit your questions for the weekly Oregon State mailbag, either on social media or via email, to me at rclarke, that's RCLARKE, at Oregonian.com. Thanks for joining us.
New season, new chaos in college football.
Let's go! Big stage, big opportunity.
This Labor Day weekend, the wildness lives on ABC, ESPN, and the all-new ESPN app.
What a way to start!
Featuring top 10 teams like Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, and LSU, and Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina.
It's so special when these teams collide.
Don't miss a lineup filled with electric matchups.
Welcome back to college football.
Kickoff week presented by Modelo. Labor Day weekend on ESPN and ABC. Also available to stream on the all-new ESPN app.